All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we got all kinds of cool stuff on the docket. It was a wild night. Thank you for checking out all of the Twitter clips that we had of the debate outside. It was a dumpster fire, but it was a beautiful dumpster fire. Anyway, the hashtag coulda had Yang was totally trending last night. And if any of you guys watch the debate, you understand that, well, this is basically why we can't have nice things in America anymore. That was actually pretty interesting. We're going to dive into that. Also, my favorite part of the debates last night and the very first clip that I put out there and edited, and I still think I was the first one in cyberspace, Cody, that noticed the Freudian slip of Bloomberg literally admitting that he bought those 21 Democrats, and he used the word bought. That was hilarious. And then we're just going to go over all of our other assorted favorite debate gaffes today. That, though, however, was my favorite. But let's get started with talking about coulda had Yang, because that was actually a really impressive moment. Of course, a lot of people on our personal feed, Cody, when we asked who do you think won the debate, a lot of the Yang gang is going to say, oh, well, Yang did. But the population at large seems to have missed this guy. I mean, it was pretty impressive. So, Cody, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, well, I thought this was funny, so I'll go back and I'll show these were the top trends on Twitter in the United States last night. You'll notice during the Dem debate when I was tweeting, so I was trending 10 hours ago from now would be roughly, working back. Oh, actually, wow, what an easy number. It would have been midnight. So later in the night, but you would have seen it. It goes back for a few hours. And why?
I mean, it's over Tom Steyer and everything.
Well, no, but the reason I want to bring this up is one thing I thought was pretty funny is why. What was the impetus for this? I think the debate was an absolute trash debate. That helps, right? The debate was awful. Everybody hated it. We're all dumber for having watched it. But there was one moment where I think it really kind of encapsulated everything. So I'm going to run this clip. It's a 38-second long, and I think this is why a lot of people were hoping maybe for a little more than what they got. So anyway, this is what we got to see last night in the debate. And I think this is probably the moment when I also was like, wow, you know what? I really would like to see Andrew Yang on this debate stage. So we'll just roll the clip.
And do something for the people of America instead of a bunch of broken promises that sound good on bumper stickers.
Mr. Steyer.
I think we're talking about
We'll get to you, Mr. Sanders.
Let's talk about it.
Can I say something?
Look, first of all,
Bernie, let me go. Let me go.
Tom, I think she was talking about my plan, not yours.
I think we were talking about math, and it doesn't take 2 hours to do the math. Because let's talk about what it adds up to.
Well, we don't.
Let's talk about math indeed. Okay, so here's the math.
No,
here's the math.
Excuse me, can I respond to the
doing nothing is what will happen.
Senator Sanders, you're allowed a quick response, and we would like to.
That was about a half hour into the debate, and like I said, when we get 30 minutes into the debate and all we have is a bunch of people yelling over each other about math, just kind of as a general concept, that was when I was really like, man, I could have really stood for Andrew Yang that debate stage. I also want to point out, speaking of Andrew Yang, the way this clip starts right here is that they start by asking Tom Steyer a question. He gets cut off by Bernie Sanders. Everyone starts yelling over each other and screaming math. And then right about here, they cut off Tom Steyer's mic. You can watch. You can see his mouth moving and you can't hear him. So I can pull it up for you guys.
And we would like to allow the other
candidates. Moderator, guys.
There we go.
Senator Sanders.
They cut his mic off and go to Bernie instead.
So they ask him a question.
That was the level. That was the level of moderation. That was the level of decorum. That was the level of respect given to each other. It was a disaster.
Well, and then also, let's not forget, they asked Tom Steyer a question, and when he went to respond, he was interrupted by Bernie Sanders, who then was interrupted by Amy Klobuchar, who was then interrupted by Pete Buttigieg. And so since Pete Buttigieg now interrupted Bernie, they said, okay, no, Tom Steyer, you need to shut up because we're going to let Bernie Sanders answer the question. But yet, no, it was Tom Steyer's question.
Yeah.
They literally said, Tom Steyer, we have a question for you. Oh, wait, no, shut up. We got to let the guy that interrupted you talk.
You can kind of hear
It's like, what?
It's hard to hear, but you can kind of hear him in the clip for a second. I'll send the links. I'll put the links so you guys can watch it, where you can hear Tom Steyer say, wait a minute, you asked me a question. And then they cut his microphone off. So it was a bunch of nonsense. But I also want to get into, so talking about kind of why, like I said, you guys let me know in the comments if you watched the debate, what was the moment where you, before I even saw this thing was trending, because again, it really got picked up the trend later in the night on Twitter. But the idea was people were talking about this. This was the moment during the debate where I was like, wow, I really do miss Andrew Yang being on these debate stages, because this is absolute insanity. I mean, ironic too that was, because that was it was a really rowdy debate. People, bad moderation all night, nobody stopping when they're supposed to. But it was kind of ironic too, like that first kind of like crescendo moment about a half hour into this debate, everyone's yelling math over each other. You know what I mean? Like what a more like what's something good for? It's like, it definitely had me thinking of Andrew Yang, and that's why I probably was like, wow, man, I wish there was someone on this debate stage who wasn't crazy. I guess Bloomberg was one of the few candidates who didn't get involved in that fracas, but
that's kind of Bloomberg now. We hate to say it.
But Bloomberg brings nothing good to the stage.
Well,
he just isn't always yelling.
No, but he's Brittany said it the very first time she saw him. She said, gosh, Bloomberg was the one I liked the most because he wasn't being a psycho that was yelling. He was just speaking in well-measured words that just seemed like the adult in the room. I mean, when Michael Bloomberg, now listen to me, you know, like when the guy that kind of sounds like he's screeching when he talks, okay, is sounding like the adult in the room. This is why we can't have nice things.
He doesn't sound like the adult in the room, though. I think he sounds like a moron, almost always. You know what?
No, his best line was, this conversation is exactly why Donald Trump's going to win. And I'll tell you right now,
that's what Yang said 7 months ago in the debate stage.
Okay, so I'm just drawing a parallel between the two. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying when Bloomberg is coming across, when the guy that blatantly Freudian slipped his purchase of the Democrat Party.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Is the guy that's sounding like the adult in the room.
But I don't think he empirically.
This is why we can't have nice things.
He isn't empirically sounding like the adult in the room. You know, I agree with Andrew Yang. And speaking of, I wanted to bring this up.
I'm speaking my truth.
One of the reasons.
I'm speaking my reality.
Whatever. Please spare me. But anyway, speaking of Andrew Yang, though, he was on CNN because he is now a CNN analyst. Mixed feelings abound. Personally, I like it. But speaking of your boy Bloomberg, I want to go through a bit of what Andrew Yang was talking about on CNN. I thought it was kind of interesting, but he had a very interesting takeaway from Bloomberg's campaign. Honestly, I like this one, so let's roll this for a second. This was Andrew Yang on Michael Bloomberg in his 2020 campaign.
Reminds me of like a movie director who casts himself. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't find anyone who's going to be better in this role than me. And like, you know, I looked in the mirror and I said, the big missing piece to me,
by the way, is
would not just take all of these resources and put them towards a candidate that he believed in. It reminds me of like a movie
director. First one I wanted to keep, because that is we were talking about this in a video yesterday, which was I wanted to run this clip as well. And it's, again, I'm highlighting this because this was the kind of more refreshing stuff we don't get in the debate stage, because a bunch of I guess charitably morons are on the debate stage. We don't get to hear this kind of stuff, but it's a great point. And we've said it before. Why didn't Bloomberg just use his money to help a real candidate for president and win? Why does it have to be him that runs? Same with Steyer. Why? Imagine if Steyer and Bloomberg teamed up and bankrolled a candidate. Think they would have won? Right?
Dude, that's true.
Where you don't have Steyer or Bloomberg siphoning votes off
What if they literally
anyone?
just got somebody who was truly charismatic, truly centrist, and just
even
muscled
Buttigieg
them through? Gosh, you know,
imagine if Buttigieg had all of the billionaire support basically in the country,
a good point.
And all of the Steyer and Bloomberg votes would be gone. They'd have to go to somebody because they wouldn't be in the race.
And then Bloomberg and Steyer would easily get cabinet positions where they'd have all the security clearances and could know everything that's going on, and they'd basically run the show.
But we never got to see Yang and Bloomberg on the same debate stage. But I do like to think Yang would have brought that point up on the debate stage. Of like, hey, I like Mike, but why is he even running? He has a lot of money that could do a lot of good not running for president. I thought that was interesting. And there's one more thing, because this is always, it's kind of become, because Yang hasn't made his endorsement yet, whenever Yang appears on CNN, it's like Bernie watch. It's like, okay, is Yang going to endorse Bernie? Is he going to be fair to Bernie? Is he going to say something bad about Bernie? Well, this is one of the things, and this is not the full clip. Actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. I want to pull up the full clip because I want to run a bit about what he said about it. But I do think it's funny how it is kind of becoming this like Bernie watch. Like, okay, is Andrew Yang going to defend Bernie Sanders on CNN tonight? And he doesn't, because I don't know why he would in the first place. It's not like they're running together. But it is. Here we go. I'll play the half clip first, and I'll get the full one first. Sorry, I clipped the part I like to talk about the most, but in fairness, I want to play the whole thing. But Andrew Yang talks about how Bernie Sanders was kind of this like castle on a hill. He was unflappable, and he basically dominated the messaging. And here's a little soundbite from that.
I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about. It's going to have some
But
relationship
that was what was
to what
so
you asked
and there was
me,
no-
but it is not really going to be what you'd asked me about,
But
and it's going to now go into a Bernieism and everything you say to him. It's like, let me be clear. I'm going to
Now,
talk about
there's
what
a couple
I'm going
things
to
I
talk
love about this clip in the first place. I love running
Yeah.
background. The first thing I love about this clip, and again, this isn't like him being dour and negative on Bernie. He brings up like Bernie
Yeah, it's
Sanders,
funny.
but he said he basically was, unflappable. He basically got to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about, and no one can make him talk about anything else. However, the irony, I think maybe Andrew Yang picks up on this more. Andrew Yang's entire debate strategy for 7 debates was no matter what they ask me, boom, pivot to UBI. Like, they could be like, so, Andrew, where'd you get those shoes? Wow, fascinating question. Anyway, did you know if every American can afford shoes like these? So I think that might be why he kind of had that particular insight. And again, I'm not bringing to the rag on Bernie. I think it's funny that, like, that was basically Yang's debate strategy. So he's kind of commending Bernie for being perhaps more successful at that same debate strategy, because that did happen multiple times where there was this sense of, and it wasn't just Bernie though, a lot of candidates did that, where they're just like, I'm not going to answer why would I answer the question these moderators asked me when the moderators are a joke and we're running over them saying whatever we want and they can't stop us? Like, why would they answer their questions,
Yeah, and also I thought it was really interesting because the Bernie bros are costing Bernie Sanders. Like, how many articles have we read about people saying, whoa, dude, you cannot speak any kind of contradiction to a Bernie Sanders idea, or else you are going to get a massive negative attack online army that's like the reverse of the Yang Gang. Instead of like having a bunch of nice stuff, barraging Ellen saying, please get Yang on our show. We love him and he doesn't get a lot of attention. You know what I'm saying? You're getting the absolute reverse. And what I found that was actually kind of sad to me, Cody, is I love the Andrew Yang candidacy because it was kind of this weird oasis that I've never really experienced in my adult life, where just people from a Trump background or a libertarian background or an establishment Democrat background, people of all backgrounds could kind of come together and they fell in love with an idea, not necessarily a person. There was a person attached to it, which we liked, you know what I'm saying? But this idea of UBI, this idea of democracy dollars, this idea of, nuclear energy helping as a stopgap before we get green technology in our country, and it was a place where ideas were spoken of and backgrounds were really secondary and into the backseat. And this identity politics BS was just kind of forgotten. And I know that not all good things can last forever. I know that. So I've kind of in my mind been wondering what's going to cause the breakup of the Yang Gang. And how many people in the comments when we posted that video on Twitter were like, I'm quitting Yang now because he spoke evil of Bernie?
No, not many, really.
Not many.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Not many, but 1 or 2. And every 1 or 2 is probably demonstrative of another 50 to 1,000 that think the exact same way or whatever it is.
1,000?
Well, what's funny is when you write your congressman, the Senate and the Congressional Business Office, whatever the CBO is, has actually figured and ran a statistic and done studies for the Senate and senators and congressmen. And I'm sure the data is different now with, tweeting and more interactive social media. But at one point they had it down where they said, like, if you've received a letter on a topic, there's probably 50,000 other people that share that person's opinion. So if you get 8 letters about the pipeline between San Dimas and Pomona, then you probably have 300 to 600,000 people or whatever the rubric is, of people that think this way. So I'm sure that for every, 1 or 2 that we see just on this tweet that we posted that got several thousand views, there's probably X, Y, or Z amount of other people that actually think that way. And I would be saddened to think that the first to go were the Bernie bros. You know what I'm saying? Because of a kind of fanatical adherence to a person instead of necessarily an idea. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I think the 2 winners of that debate were Andrew Yang and Donald Trump. Just Donald Trump can just pull sound bites for the next 2 or 3 days out of that debate, showing how crazy these people are, showing how Bernie won't speak evil of communists that killed, half of Florida's grandparents. You know what I'm saying? Like he Donald Trump Jr. is going to be having a heyday. Like that debate was a gift to the Republican Party. And it really hurt Sanders. I think even though a lot of people said that they thought he won the debate, everybody turned on Sanders. but everybody that turned on him didn't really make themselves shine. So I don't know necessarily who won that debate. It feels like it was just a general loss for everybody that was on stage and a huge victory for people that weren't, Donald Trump and Andrew Yang.
Yeah, well, I think everybody lost, but the biggest losers were us for having watched it. But no, really though, the biggest losers were CBS's credibility. Their moderators were a joke. Like I said, Andrew Yang brought up the fact that Bernie Sanders never felt the need to actually fully address the questions he was asked, because why should he? These moderators are clowns. I'm surprised anyone bothered to speak about any topics on hand at all. Why would they? Why should they have? These moderators couldn't keep it on track for 30 seconds. Like, this was the most... I don't want to get... If I was one of those moderators, when I went home at night, man, I would have felt terrible. Because you basically got clowned on and disrespected on national television for 2 hours. These candidates did not treat... These candidates acted like they're basically...
Well, Joe Biden literally said, why am I stopping?
Well,
Nobody else is stopping.
Beyond that, shortly after that, one of the commentators was like, well, thank you, Joe, for being a gentleman and stopping. And he said, well, it appears gentlemen don't get treated very well on the stage. Because, yes, they don't. It was a ridiculous thing, and CBS definitely came out the biggest.
Anyway, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't had a chance yet, join the channel. It's a really inexpensive way to make sure that we keep this content coming to you without any corporate sponsorships. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1 or on Instagram at Problem Solver Politics. This is Problem Solver Politics. Smash that like button. We'll see you guys in the next video.